Here's John and Danny.
Man, what a great start to the show. It's not a Grim After Dark show if you don't start with massive technical difficulties. So welcome in. Guys, the British pound may be collapsing beyond measure. Charles, is it moving into Buckingham Palace until 2027 so we can slap some paint on the walls? But Mikey from Hellstorm Wargaming got up at like a really stupid time to do this. I am a hydrocephalic version of Quentin Tarantino. And even though we are a group of elitist neckbeards, it's still going to be pretty grim after dark. My first co-host got a much easier to pronounce insult, is our classic high hairline Harry himself, is Danny McDivett.
Boy, I'm about to butter your bread.
Dude, instantaneous. It's amazing.
The speed.
It's amazing how much the technology upgrades as soon as we get Dickie in the studio, instead of it being just real Heffelfingered.
I think the official term of the FLGN is when something goes wrong, it gets Heffelfingered. It's fine. Danny, before we get to Mikey, the Frontline Gaming community on Facebook did bring this to our attention. Realizing the knowledge base we have in competitive 40K. It says, I'd like to lodge a formal complaint against Danny and John and Grim After Dark. They aren't teaching us about their Alaska culture, and we have to find out about things like Fat Bear Week from other people. Danny, your thoughts on this heinous crimes? I mean, I'm not even Alaskan, so I don't know. Yeah.
Well, okay. So there's a couple things to address here.
Okay.
Number one, we wanted to participate in Fat Bear Week more extensively, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, John, we talked about this. We had a little meeting about this a little earlier, right?
Well, we entered.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we did. I won't, but we want to address it. We want to address it as a show, not just individually. Okay. And so we haven't kind of come out and talked, spoken about it yet. So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed to talk about it right now because it's kind of crushing to me on a personal level.
Okay. Oh, that was a setup? We're good to okay. Perfect. Dickie, if you want to go to the next slide, we'll see the first entrant for a fat Alaskan bear. It's a pretty good one, pretty solid. Believe he's playing Cyberpunk at that time, which for a bear is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Danny, if you could, for the purpose of the audio listener, who I continually forget, can you describe what that picture was about there?
Yeah, so what you see here is mildly depressed middle-aged man playing video games with his son and dog in a with no socks and the hairiest legs you've ever seen. I mean, I don't want to say that he's probably the hairiest man in the world, but I mean, pretty close, to be honest with you. And he looks they're playing video games, and yet he somehow looks disappointed.
Yeah. I will say, looking closer at that picture, I am actually playing the Spider-Man video game for PlayStation 4. My son has an uncharged controller, so he can leave me alone while he's playing it.
Holy shit, dude.
What? He's 3. He thinks he's playing. It's fine.
It's cold-blooded. Just let the kid play the game.
Let's go to the next one. Next picture of our fat bear. No, let's go ahead.
Dude, that guy's suit barely fits. So there is a very portly gentleman here, who appears to be this picture has been used as a meme amongst our friend group many, many times about you're wrong, but it's gonna bother me if I don't tell you about why. So
I did mean that very heavily for 6 months after your wedding.
Light colored hair. Although maybe not quite as outwardly depressed. You can see how depressed this man is, and just
there's no light behind those eyes.
No, it's just dead on the inside. There's no light. Yeah. No light at all.
No, at all. And then I think if we can move on to our last one, the second here, we're going to move on to our last one here, because there was some, what's the word I'm looking for, controversy at the final as the winner of the Fat Bear competition was announced. Dickie, throw up that picture. So there was a little bit of
this is a
violence going
gentleman
on
here engaging in hand-to-hand combat. This is actually a perfect demonstration of how to defeat a bear in hand-to-hand combat. While you may have to sacrifice your arm, you can see his other hand is in a mimicry of posing to stab the bear in the neck with some kind of a shank or knife or sword, some type of stabbing device. Therefore, defeating the creature and proving man's mastery over nature once and for all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised this guy didn't win the fattest bear contest, because this man who's fighting this bear is also morbidly
disqualify you from the fattest bear contest if you were proving man's dominance over nature, for bear isn't man.
You know, what if a man was a bear? That's the question you have to ask yourself. So that's why I'm disappointed to announce here that I was disqualified for fattest bear in Alaska in 2022, unfortunately this year, due to a residency complaint that was sent in anonymously
by me
from some kind of disappointed middle-aged gentleman that sits on a couch and plays video games.
Absolutely. Danny, we've made Mikey wait long enough while we made fun of ourselves for being out of shape. Why don't you go ahead, bring him on in?
Oh, man. So, hey, by the way, thanks to this guy for bearing with us during this segment.
Oh, no. Restart the stream.
Oh. Normally I'm against puns, but I also love low-hanging fruit. Anyways, so you may know Mikey from his streaming exploits, and he's joining us here. We called some weird 9-digit phone number in the middle of the night to wake him up to tell him to come on, which we appreciate him waking up and doing this. Even though he's not allowed to turn on the lights in the bedroom, they're letting him record in there anyway. So Mikey from Hellstorm Wargaming, we're pleased to welcome you tonight.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's so good to be here. I mean, after that display of like the bears, I felt really emasculate compared. So I'm going to try my best to keep up. But it's very good to be here.
Look, buddy, you're in good company here.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be up at like 2 a.m. to hear two people talk about the fact they're fat and one guy fighting a stuffed bear in a Seattle airport?
Oh, that'd be fine. That'd be fine. But it's 3 a.m. and nothing good happens after 3 a.m.
Sorry.
An hour ago, that would have been fine, but now it's just
it's unacceptable.
It's ruined.
Yeah,
it's ruined.
Now.
Mikey, go ahead. Tell us about Hellstorm Wargaming. It's kind of one of the big streamers coming out of the UK. Tell us about like Hellstorm.
So I usually stream the latest drama. That's like the best thing I do. Probably the thing I'm most known for. But I do like live stream battle reports. I do Age of Sigmar content. I do 3D printing content. But mostly laughing, kind of like what you guys do. Just laughing at dumb takes on the internet, which is probably the most fun I have every week. So
good time.
Yeah.
Have you been sort of like graphing the increase of dumb takes that have been coming on? I know, guys, audience, I know I'm talking to you at this point, so I sort of apologize. But it seems like the past couple years, the exponentially getting either dumber or more, or kind of maybe everyone is just kind of getting their voice out more. Why do you think there's been kind of this big take of 40K, I'm going to use air quotations, podcast listeners, but experts coming onto the scene?
I don't know, because we're in like a weird niche or niche, you guys might say. Like of just like, we talk about a toy soldier game, and then lots of people are like, you know what I can do? I can get really easy views by having a dumb take. So then I'll just ride with it and see what happens. But it seems to be going full circle, because the takes that we're having now are like from a few years ago, just like regurgitated. So it's like full circle, but they're all coming out at once right now, which is great, because we could just keep laughing at them. Sometimes there's like a dry week, but like the past few weeks have been amazing.
Evergreen.
Good. Yeah, been eating good for the past few weeks.
Danny, do you think next week we should probably just do an episode where we talk about how broken like Iron Hands, Leviathan, Dreadnoughts are, and see if anyone notices that we're actually talking about something from several
I
years
still
John,
ago?
play
I've been wanting to
Leviathans.
talk about this for months. Months. Please, can we please talk about Leviathan Dreadnoughts again? I'm ready. I'm so ready.
As a champion of
No.
Iron Hands at most events, I'm still running that character Contemptor, and that's still done.
How does
Still
that,
good.
how
What's
does
the
that,
free content?
so how does that feel for you? And we're going to go into nerfs and stuff in a second here, but like you're someone who's played Marines for a while, right? And you have kind of like a good understanding. You love your Iron Hands. Your army comes out, and then instantly everyone else kind of jumps on, points out how ridiculously powerful it is, and then all of a sudden you have to be depowered in sort of kind of to level
they're
everything
all
up.
right. They're fine. They're fine. No one plays them. They're fine.
You
Don't
like
worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's really breaking rule that carrying the entire book.
Yeah, well, I mean, what rule do I want to avoid and don't worry about?
that
make sure I don't
supplement
read it.
is purely relying on the character Contemptor right now.
Well,
That is
at least he's got a strong back, you know. Like
Yeah.
he can carry that on his back. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
then
carrying
Volkites have got like
multiple
4 layers of dust on, but they're still good.
So what made you kind of start streaming and kind of creating Warhammer content?
Oh god. So I started making content. The naive of me at the time was making live battle reports.
Actually, in the US, it's pronounced naivety.
Oh, really?
Say
so-
hydrocephalic.
I would if it wasn't for all this damn water on my brain. But anyway.
Oh, dear. So I first started, I think it was like 6 years ago, exclusively on Twitch, streaming live battle reports around the same time that Warhammer Live started, just for fun in like late 7th edition. And then we got a really big break when we did like a 24-hour stream for the launch of 8th edition. So that's like probably like a couple of months into it. I like kind of timed it really well by accident. So that's kind of like how we started. And then we basically only produced battle reports. And then once we broke out and did a book review before a battle report until the pandemic, where that wasn't a thing anymore because I filmed everything in my house and no one could come in. So I kind of like had to flip the channel on its head and like kind of like change the direction and turn it into a bit more like a chatty, what's new this week type deal. And then that kind of like escalated because it turns out that's much more fun content and also does really well comparatively. You can spend 18 hours editing a battle report and get 1,000 views, or you could talk shit about someone on the internet and then, you know, get maybe 2,000 views and spend maybe half an hour on the video, and it's great and way more fun.
You edit? What? It's crazy.
Yeah, I just stream content and then edit into a video.
So you're known for kind of like sharing your views and opinions in the community, things like that. Has that ever kind of bit you in the ass? Like when going to events, if someone came and be like, hey, you said I cheated just because I got 4 rules wrong on purpose. Have you ever kind of had any public backlash over anything?
Not like public backlash, I don't think. I've never had anything like that in person. Maybe that's because either my dumb takes are soft, or that people just love to be angry over a keyboard rather than in person. But I definitely had people be angry at me over the keyboards, that's for sure. The most famous are probably when I was cutting all my battle mats and shouting #SmallBoardGang, and then everyone was saying, why if they make it bigger again? I was just like, I don't know, I'll just buy another one. Why is it such a big deal? And then more recently about the WTC shenanigans about streaming and stuff like that. Lots of people angry about that as well. So,
oh man, that was fun. That was like a really good content couple of weeks for us there too. Danny, what about you? You say a lot of things. Have you ever had anyone like some of them? No, I'm kidding. But like you have a lot of opinions, a very like strict opinions. You're very certain on a lot of things. Have you had people kind of come up to you or respond to you in a way like, "Hey, Dick, don't do that"?
No, never really. People don't really complain to me very much, though. In general, I would say, because it's, I don't know. It's one thing to be mad at somebody on the internet. It's another thing when they're like 6'4" and like right there in front of you.
Danny, you had one about me once upon a time. If you
What's
might
that?
remember, you had
Hell
an
yeah.
opinion about me once. But I'll bring this up now. When
No,
I
no.
made my own balanced data slate, if you remember, that was discussed on this show,
Yeah.
and you were like, "It's fucking dumb. None of that. I hate it. Go away."
That sounds like something I would say.
Let's talk
Something
about
along
if
those
you've ever
lines.
had any repercussions from anything you've ever said.
No, not usually.
Which is all
Not
planned,
unless
actually.
they're personal.
Yeah, John.
So let's
John
talk about
messaged me
that
and
because
said,
you
"Can
did put a
remind me
lot of
about this?"
effort into there, and yeah, we did kind of make one or two things or some things put out. And I will
Yeah.
say you did kind of in our comments let us know you kind of just collated people's ideas to kind of be trimmed down later. What aside from a terrible state of the game at the time drove you to kind of jump out and be like, hey, this is some stuff that's needed?
Yeah, so like a lot of what I do, like I said, like my main 40k show is looking at the stats, right? Looking at like the weekly stats of like the win rates of the looking at the meta as a whole. I rely a lot on the competitive subreddit and what JCM does on there for those stats. And the problem was is people like got used to coming to me to like analyze the stats in the show and stuff like that and be like,
Sure.
this is what's happening, this is what's really broken and stuff like that. And at the time it was the height of Tau had just been released, Custodians were dumb, and Harlequins had just come out and they were also really dumb. And it was like that
That's
for
a
like
really
what,
fun part of the
2-3
game.
months. Yeah, exactly. And people come in like, oh, what's the stats this week? I was like, I don't know. Harlequins have probably won again. Who cares? So I was like, you know what? I need, and obviously that doesn't last very long when people are coming to the show looking for somebody. You're just like, no one cares because it's the same as last week. So I was just like, you know what? They're not doing anything right now. What if I could take over? Because it's a bit of a meme about Games Workshop never making me a playtest, and I keep telling them that'd be a really good one. I like kind of went, what would be some really good ideas for them to finally release a balanced data slate? What should be in it, and how would I change it if I was in charge? And then I was like, what would be really good is if I looked at their balanced data slate from last time and used my quite scary good Photoshop skills and make my own.
Phenomenally good Photoshop skills.
Yeah, so it's kind of a problem. It gets me into trouble sometimes, get me into hot water, specifically that time. But but yeah, so that was kind of like what happened. And then because it looked so good and people were just like memeing on their friends, they were like cropping out the bit where it says this is a community balanced data slate and this is
by the way,
all community
thank
based.
you for making that so easy to crop out. Like it was just
yeah, exactly. Let's not take the full thing. Let's crop out this bit and then send it to our friends, and then that'll get shared, and then it'll be like, haha, that's a funny gaff, and then that'll get shared again and again and again until the source is gone, and now everyone's just angry at me when I'm like, look what I did as a fun thing this Monday, and everyone's like, no, you're an idiot.
And you just turn around and be like,
really did say that.
I had to do the YouTuber apology. I did a big sigh at the beginning of the video. I was like, guys, I'm so sorry that my Photoshop's too good.
That's when you just turn around, you're like, Games Workshop playtest now? Huh?
Yeah, exactly. And the day I released it officially, they announced that they were finally bringing out the balanced data slate a month early. What can I say?
Hey,
most influential 40k YouTuber on the platform.
Go. Yeah, I mean, you can't deny it, can you? Just
exactly.
Happened. Yeah,
just happened.
Undeniable.
Just happened.
A month early.
Month early. Well,
or a month premature.
They probably saw your one come out, and then they were like, well, like just like the potato pics of Magnus and Angron stuff, like, oh fuck, we have to release it now. The potato picture's out. Your Photoshop is so good. Like,
exactly.
the whole thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Moving on. Let's look at this next guy here. I found this one here. It brought me back to my childhood. It was kind of wonderful here. On Twitter, someone said, oh no, Teenage Wargaming Terrain Instincts kicking in with the wonderful packaging, which I spent many an hour trying to turn into terrain, and my dad threw away very quickly because it was really bad. What I want to kind of spin this into with you guys here, differences about terrain, because we know different events have different standards. WTC is one thing, GW Opens are another thing, frontline events are a different thing. It's kind of all over the place. Mikey, where are you at in your scene in the UK with terrain? Are you guys following WTC? Or are you doing something different?
So a lot of the UK events that I play at usually use the UKTC, or made famous by LGT terrain. But I run events myself, and
Styrofoam.
the one just after, they want you to think of, not the other one. So yeah, that is pretty decent terrain. The problem is like when every event's using it, it gets a little bit stale, in my opinion. So the terrain's fine, but if every event's using the same terrain, it gets quite stale quite quickly. Me personally, I run events myself, and we I use a mixture of terrain. So I have like 5 different table setups. So I've got a mixture of WTC, UKTC, game mat, player placed, and Games Workshop Open, all in the same event. So, and then we use random tables rather than ranked tables until the last round. So, like, no matter where you're playing, your table number will change, and then you'll play on a different type of terrain each game. Which I think is probably the best way, because every terrain type is like really good for a certain type of army, so you can really build for it. So if you have like lots of different types of terrain setups, then you can't build for it. You can only try and plan, oh, I hope I land on this table, or I'll bring an all-comers list because I might play on the wrong table, for example.
Or you can just, get bad luck and have 5 rounds in a row and player place terrain.
That also does happen. But you can just play in BCP then, and that's not my fault. Random tables, it's all BCP's fault.
So how are your players reacting to that? Because like I said, you have a lot of people, of course, you're running events, obviously to prep for some of the bigger ones. We know LGT is a huge one. There's also some other kind of majors going on. UK competitive scene is really growing hugely in scope and size right now. How is the reaction from your players with this kind of mixed terrain format?
Everyone hates the Games Workshop one because they hate Perspex. But they
it's
like
true.
the
Mike Brand actually bought shares in a Chinese plastic company right before launching that.
He left his laptop at a repair place, and it was found. That's how we all know.
Yeah, that's how the Chaos Demon Codex got out.
It's true.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I think I obviously sound biased when I say it, but a lot of the people who come to my events do say they enjoy the variety. Because they, like, for example, like the Games Workshop Open terrain doesn't really see play outside of, sometimes Warhammer World use it there, but sometimes they don't, and it's kind of like they don't get to experience like the US type terrain. So it's like nice that they can go to one event and be like, okay, we play the WTC style, which we might not have seen before, and then we'll go and play the Games Workshop one straight after. Which is, again, it's just variety is the spice of life, right?
It's true.
Yeah, so, for sure. On that, the GW Open events, they've been going on all over the US the past couple of years. They've expanded. They correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe one's happened in the UK.
No. So we have Warhammer World, but they don't quite run in quite the same way. So, but we don't have an official Games Workshop Open event in the UK right now.
So do you think that's something that's going to happen and expand out as GW trying to kind of stamp their scene on the UK competitive market? Because it seems to be like they're going hard in the US without much focus in the UK.
I think they'd be daft not to, because there's clearly a market for it, because it's been proven with the UKTC. There's clearly a market for lots of people wanting to go to large events in the UK. So I think they'd be daft not to. I just don't know when that'll be. It'll probably be when we least expect it, in GW.
Yeah,
so like 2 years time,
tomorrow.
Maybe. Yeah, just before 10th edition locks, everyone's bored of 9th edition. They'll go, yeah, we're going to do a big tournament scene.
We're going to do a 9th edition tournament the week after 10th launches.
Exactly.
Danny, what's kind of your preferred? Because you played in a few of these different terrain types here.
So I actually had an interesting experience this weekend. I went to a GT, played on frontline terrain, but with bottom floor blocking line of sight. And it was a nightmare. I forgot how much I hate magic boxes, and like 9th edition's vertical engagement range makes all that stuff like impossible to shoot at, basically. So assault armies were doing very, very well at that event. But yeah, it was interesting. So I think, while I do appreciate like terrain and multiple different types of terrain being like kind of the spice of life, I do like the idea of like some GW official like tournament like table layouts. I think that like some kind of parity on their events would be really good for like a championship or something like that, like some kind of like overarching, like really big prestigious event where there's like a standard that's been applied to like this whole series of tournaments. I think that would be really good.
Yeah, that'd be
Jumping
really
in
fun.
here real quick. Chat, Crip Shadow, you keep Swizzle Stick's name out your mouth. They're wonderful. Sorry, Mikey, please continue.
No, I was gonna say, I think with the lack of official tournament terrain, like as everything is like third party, you know, at the minute, like with the lack of official tournament terrain, it's a bit funky. But I think with an official pack, they went, you do this, it'd be quite interesting. But we'll just have to wait and see. We're just kind of just all buying perspex in the bucket load at the minute and hoping for the best.
Oh yeah.
Do you guys see a place kind of, because we're kind of in the twilight of this edition, although nothing kind of official has been announced, you know, the signs of the apocalypse are there, you know, the last of the codices, the coming of the supplements, the increasing of the power. Do you see a place where Comp 40K is going to get kind of that standardized, this is the terrain layout for this mission? Or do you think that's going to go too much against GW's idea of, hey, you guys do what you want, we just give you the game?
Ooh, good
That's
question.
A good question. That's a great question.
Yeah.
So much so. You first.
Here's the trick here, Mikey, is I pull people in with memes and bad jokes, but then I just throw out just random, really insightful questions.
It was good.
God. You want a pat on the back?
Yeah, I do.
All right, well, I'll give you one when I see you next.
Damn it, that's so fun.
Man.
Because like the way I'm thinking of it, yeah, standardized terrain is great, right? But GW is always in its rule books being like, play the way, forge your own narrative. That was the joke for years, right?
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying there, right? Like I think that Games Workshop has sort of adapted that. I think their adaptation is more like, just make sure you're having fun. I feel like the hands-off thing was kind of more of an FLG thing, like from like ITC FAQ and that kind of stuff, like hey, you can play your stuff however you want, but this is like kind of just a unifying document that'll help solve some of your problems. And also you can run your events and tournaments with whatever rules you want, just you can use them in the ITC. So they don't want to like define what the standard event should be. And yeah, I don't know. I would like to see more uniformity, but I think that there's some obvious disadvantages to that approach as well.
Yeah, I think with the whole, they've got this new campaign that's coming out that's all like narrative and open play themed, and it's explicitly said it's not for match play, with the board in action game type that's coming out, and they're making it quite clear that they're trying to make like a grand tournament scene with the grand tournament mission packs always coming out, and it's quite clear they've made that separation between like narrative and competitive. Like that's been their motto for a while now, it seems. So would it be crazy for them to release like a standardized mission pack and standardized terrain pack, but then also go, that use this as you will, you don't have to follow this, you can just take inspiration from it. But then people, because it's from Games Workshop, would take it as gospel, and they wouldn't deviate from it at all. So it might become the same problem that I've already mentioned, is that every tournament starts using the same terrain and it gets quite stale quite quickly.
Yeah. And going off of that here, chat's asking as well, does set terrain just make list building less creative?
It's a risk, right? Like, and it may or may not. So it will in some ways, but then people are going to try and break the meta, right, and take something off meta. So it might also foster some diversity. I see it kind of being more of a solved game problem sometimes, especially between armies that are pretty much like, these are the power choices, and they don't really deviate from that kind of style of army. I can see there's some stagnation there for sure.
Yeah, exactly. As I mentioned, like unless they make the impossible and make a perfect terrain type for every army archetype, then they're just going to struggle, and it's just going to be a case of, okay, this is an open gallery, so I'll take all my guns, or this is like really heavy terrain, so I'll take all my swords, and yeah, I think that's always going to be the problem with the standardized terrain set, and again, why it'll become stale.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on, next here we have the classic no bikes, no ultramarines. Someone misreads this sign, which has the ultramarine logo on there. And that's going to leave you guys, Guys, what are your hated factions? Who do you just not have time for in the Warhammer 40,000 universe? Starting with you, Mikey.
Tau. Hands
Okay.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, Danny.
Never Tau.
You famed Tau player, you.
Am I famed Tau player?
I got it back.
Oh man, I have so many armies I hate. God, and I own them all too. So that just what does that make me a self-hating? Anyway, so I don't like playing against orcs. I know that's like the weirdest thing in the world, but like the whole
That is a hot take.
I hate how random everything is. Like just sometimes like things that shouldn't happen do happen just because they roll so many dice all the time and you're rolling so many dice against orcs. Like I hated less this current book, which is weird to say because it's definitely more powerful than the last one, but at least it's not like I hated shock attack guns so much. Like they were just such cancer. Yeah, and also thank you, Joel. People yelling "wah" is like super cringe.
Yeah, it is. But it was become so cringe. It's gone full circle. It's kind of funny again. It's funny because it's cringe. You're just waiting for the first one at a tournament. You're like, that's so goddamn
new
bad.
plan.
I hate it.
At LVO, we're going to take it full circle. So we're going to go to the table with orcs. We're going to deploy our orc army. Then we're going to place a monocle on our face. We're going to grab a top hat from under the table. We're going to straighten our tie. And then yell "wow" as loudly as we can. And then just remove it all. I'd
pay to see that.
Wonderfulness. It's quite cool. Fancy. Guys. Yeah, well, we'll make that a stretch goal.
Secret Patreon, right?
Yeah,
I will say secret Patreon. The worst part about orcs is just it's almost a Squidward meme every time I play them because they're like, just so you know, this is my threat range. I can turn one charge you. You're like, oh, daring today, aren't we? Turn one charging with your orc army. Okay, what about if you guys had to ban one faction from the game of Warhammer 40,000? It's gone. It's out of there. I feel, Mikey, you're going to repeat the same answer again. But what would it be and why?
So don't you think Tau have just always had a negative play experience for either the person playing them or playing against them, usually the latter? So I played 7th edition, I played Riptide Wings, I played 8th edition, they were horrific. 9th edition, they were pretty terrible.
Riptide Wing in 7th edition doesn't necessarily mean you have a Tau army.
Exactly. You've got enough of it. So it's awful to play against. And then, like 9th edition, for most of it, it was really awful for the player, and we felt very sad for at least 3 seconds. And then the new credits came out, and it's just awful again. Just get rid of it.
Danny,
John, I'm shaking it up. Let's ban Space Marines. Let's see some new armies. Like, let's just really see different people shake up the scene. Besides, they only have like a 39% win rate anyway, so who cares?
You're gonna treat it
like it's all the players' fault. Don't forget, it's all the bad players.
Yeah.
I did love that call out in Warhammer community, being like, "Yeah, all of our factions are perfect, apart from this one, where the players are just shit."
You guys are just bad at Warhammer.
Oh mate, it is so good, so good.
Oh, amazing!
Just have to explain the rock paper scissors meta as well.
That was amazing, guys. There was so many good picture meme things I found for rock paper scissors, but I couldn't organically fit them in this week. But they will stay for a while. I think, Danny, we're going to try and convince Kicker to let us hold a rock paper scissors championship the Thursday of LVO.
Do it.
I think that would be a good fundraiser. Maybe.
Wait, can we just get it in the packet that all people have to decide to attacker defender via rock paper scissors? I'd really like to see this kind of like take a bigger part in deciding people's tournament games.
You could try to get him to do like a Mexican wave of the. That'd be really cool.
Man, moving on. This one here I found on a Warhammer site, unfortunately still. But it's the new Black Templar special Emperor's Champion killing an orc. Liz Truss is the Black Templar. His sword is the Tory mini budget, and the orc is the value of the pound. Mikey, in the UK, things aren't going maybe super great economically. We're in a state where America, like, it's actually cheaper for me to go home and buy stuff than buy stuff here.
It's mental. I think we've
do
been
you
laughing at
feel?
the American politics for a while, and we're kind of like eating it back now.
Well, what was crazy, right? So we're talking there, like I'm a permanent resident in the United States, and people were like, "Hey, you're going to go for citizenship?" I'm like, "No." They're like, why? It's like I won the option to go home if everything just goes tits up here. Like that
Mhm.
would be great. But then I looked over and I'm like, oh no, that's the same kind of thing there. But how do you view this kind of the effect of this economic downturn on kind of events, development, gaming in the UK? Because you're seeing kind of like massive price rises sort of everywhere. How do you think that's going to affect the UK scene?
Well, it's like jokes aside, like everything is more expensive at home, so people just have less money to throw away to go to events, and then when you do go to an event, like the hotels, if you're having to stay, are obscenely priced right now. They've like doubled or tripled in price compared to last year, and then everything around it is just way more expensive. So it is going to be just harder for the normal person just to go out and play tournaments, and it's probably gonna. I'm not going to say like not kill the scene, but it's definitely going to take a hard hit, and I think most people are feeling it. And the more casual person is probably going to be more put off from going to a tournament compared to like someone who does it all the time, because they've kind of already accepted that as a cost, and they're going to go do really well. They might win a prize, whereas the person who's going to go have 5-6 fun games with friends might be like, actually, we could do this at home and order a pizza, and it'd be a lot cheaper. Compared to like driving somewhere, staying somewhere, and eating out of like restaurants, etc. So it's a pretty big yikes, to be honest.
Do you see kind of affecting like the major level more, the GT, like the RTT level more? Where do you think it's going to take like the biggest hit, like attendance and kind of player wise?
I think probably the GT level. I think it'll be the middle one. Like RTTs are usually like one day, so people can like drive out and then drive home again. So that's like the cost is quite minimal. But like the big events, people don't play all the time. They're usually like once or twice a year type thing, so people might save up for it. But the GT ones, which happen every other month that they might go to, are probably going to take the biggest hit, in my opinion. That's just pure speculation.
Mm-hmm.
But I imagine they're going to be the ones that are hit the worst, because it's like a quite large cost for usually something you do every couple of months, where you could save that and then go to a bigger event later on.
Yeah. Well, happier times. Let's move on
Hmm.
here, Danny. Unless you have insight into the thing there.
Nope.
Awesome. Let's move on to something someone asked earlier. How can we get Danny to rage again? Apparently, was a thing that's a popular thing people want. So let's talk about this next slide here. The pre-release nerf to the Votan.
Oh boy.
I just love this thumbnail.
Why do you assume that I'm going to rage at this? That's
It's a
what
good
that's what
thumbnail.
I want to ask.
Or maybe it was like hidden coded instructions to rage at this. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
But yeah, so we saw a unique situation happening where we have an army come out. Army was obscenely powerful from day one. I think everyone saw that, but we saw a harsh and quick reversal and a massive increase in points to some units that were not really super necessary. Mikey, what's your take on this pre-nerf or a pre-release nerf based on kind of a small feedback?
I think the concept of it was really good. I think them being proactive on releasing nerfs before the whole army is out is actually really good, because it's very consumer centric, where you're not going out buying 3 land fortresses and then when you finally built and painted them, then they get nerfed. That's really big, feels bad. But we're all kind of used to it now. So we were I think most people were just surprised that Games Workshop were like, actually, we'll look after you for this one time. But rightfully said by a lot of Votan Facebook groups, the some of the I think a lot of the nerfs were very, very, very harsh, and so I think they've definitely like a knee jerk reaction to the way they nerf them. For example, like the Hearthguard, the Terminator-esque unit going up 10 points per model, but only the bike's going up 5 is quite weird. And then the obviously the big one with the judgment tokens kind of completely killing the synergy between the codex, between stratagems, and obviously the Magna Rail rifle, where it forces you to wound if you roll a hit, where it kind of, you almost want to roll a 3 to hit rather than a 4, 5, or 6 with all the judgment tokens, because you want to then be able to have a chance to roll to wound. Whereas if I think if they just thought about it for maybe a little bit longer and gone, you may auto wound, it'd be a lot more interesting where you could roll to hit and then be like, this Magna Rail rifle, I'm going to put that to one side and roll to wound with it so I can try and get my 6 to wound off.
Sure.
Now it's just almost, well, not almost impossible, but like it's very improbable that you're going to be able to roll a hit and then roll the 6 to wound because you don't have that choice of being able to like, I'm not going to use a judgment token in this instance. So very knee-jerky, but I'm sure they'll probably get another update soon enough, which will then be like, actually, yeah, you're right, we'll change it again.
Yeah. Danny, do you see us getting kind of the FAQ 2 weeks after the actual codex comes out, whenever that is, like other books, or are we going to stick with the Votan we have?
Oh God, I hope not. Let's not have more changes right off the
Danny,
bat.
you took Votan to a GT this weekend, right? So how was your experience of the nerfed Votan?
I did play Votan at a GT this weekend.
You're the reason everyone says Votan sucks.
Hey man, I got all the wins this weekend that were available that were had by Votan. So
to be fair, he also plays Space Marines.
True. So it's his fault.
True. Iron Hand specifically, actually. So I don't know. All right. So they're actually pretty squishy. Like if you especially if you have volume attacks or firepower, like getting a 5+ or a 4+ save is like not that good right now. So yeah, my stuff definitely dies. And while they have a lot of attacks, like without getting any of the other new units, definitely the book feels lackluster in its current state. That being said, I still went 3-2. So
nice.
Like there's the stuff still has some legs at least. And like Mikey was pointing out, things like with the railguns and things like that. I don't know how much that for like the Magna Rails it mattered, because I took like 6 Magna Rails in my list. And I did roll the 6 a couple of times. Just nice. And I had to like be like, all right, I'm not putting judgment tokens on that unit, because I'm gonna try and get some 6s on the Magna Rails. So but
that's such a weird interaction to be like, I'm not going to use my army's ability because I want to roll dice.
Use my strengths, please.
Yeah.
It's a more modern dwarf who's in touch with his emotions, and he's like, you know what? I'm not going to hold that against you. You hold that objective.
It's true. It's true. They're very conscientious of other people's feelings and opinions.
Yeah, we're using just the starter set stuff, so just the bikes and the characters, and I think a lot of people are kind of looking at the Votan results right now and going, maybe Games Workshop were too harsh, and then not realizing that they are just playing 3 units spammed right now, which is not a bad list, but it is very limited.
Totally. Well, and like it's not a good list, 100%. Like I had one assault element, and that was the champion with Exactor, and like that's it. And but he was when he was good, he was very, very good. But the bikes are one of the best units in the book still, even at 35 points. They are an amazing value.
Oh yeah. It's just so much speed and then obsec on top. You're like, okay, cool.
The guns, it's significant. Like the shooting is insane.
How do you just wait to fire, right? They came up with the points increases, because Mikey, like you said, they're like the Hearthguard, who no one was really talking about as being like a big scary thing, went up 10. And then the bikes, where everyone's like, well, I'm just going to have 18 of these, they only went up 5. Do you think it was any kind of, like, what do you think the rhyme or reason behind some of those changes were?
Honestly, I feel like they got those two mixed up. If they said the bikes went up 10 and the Hearthguard went up 5, I'd be like, yeah, totally understandable. But the way they've done it is just weird. You know?
I think the Thunderkin increase was probably a mistake, like too much as well. Like they probably didn't even need to go up. They were like not good in the first place. So a bunch of stuff. I think a bunch of mistakes that, or not a bunch, a couple of mistakes, because there's only 12 data sheets, right? Like, and many of them needed to go up as much as they did. Berserks need to be 30 points.
Yeah.
The Land Fortress is probably pretty close to where it needs to be, I think. But yeah, I think that there's definitely maybe a little bit of work to do on points in a future balanced data slate. But let's see how they perform in events, and then then I would want to look at those points and wait.
That's what you get for having the intern enter the data into the Excel spreadsheet. You get a couple of mix-ups.
Excuse me, sir. I'm a rules writing associate, and I don't have time to do that entry.
Moving on, we have leaks coming up for the Astra Militarum. We teased it last week. It was announced today. The Rough Riders are back. The Attillans, horses are a thing when you have beam weapons. We're very excited about it. But one thing that's rumored to not be a part of the Imperial Guard Codex is Commissar Yarrick. He has ripped off his last orc arm, allegedly. Again, we're going off of standard YouTuber information level, so absolutely zero, apart from a couple of things we've heard on Facebook. Mikey, what are your thoughts on kind of goodbye Commissar Yarrick?
I think it's a real shame. He's such an iconic character to the entire 40k lore. It's just like, it's really, really odd. But also, that model is old. It is old AF. So I can understand them like scrapping it. Maybe put him in a supplement. I don't know. But yeah, it's a real shame. But they're either going to release a new model for it or bin it. I think that's kind of like what they're doing these days.
Yeah. Danny, do you think it's a shame that we're getting Yarrick just removed from the book rather than taken care of by Gazgul? Like, you've been building up this big feud of the century, the immovable object versus the unkillable commissar. You're just like, well, no, he's fine cast. So
nope, get fucked, Boomer. That's what I have to say about
that. Totally fair. Mikey, we've been seeing some stuff coming out about the Astra Militarum line. With single regiments not really being a thing, different kind of wars like Cadians and Catachans getting special rules for their units as an instead thing. What are your thoughts on Guard based on kind of what we've heard from Warhammer community so far?
Oh, I just love rules bloat. So they sound really fun. Yeah, like the concept of it on like his first reflect, like, you know, oh yeah, you know, Cadians will have their own special rule, but you'll get an army wide rule while you've got Cadians and Krieg all together. It sounds awesome, but also trying to remember all the different coloured guardsmen that all look the same. They just got different hats on at a tournament, and then this one does this and this one does this. It's going to be tough, I think, for a little while while we all try and learn what it does again.
Again, one of the final horsemen of a new edition is a weird rules bloated codex coming out right towards the end. Danny, what's your talk on what's your take on Militarum?
Well, I'm excited to see them get at least something, even if it's, I don't know. I mean, what, like, we're all kind of making this assumption that the new edition is coming next year, which is probably a pretty fair assumption. But it'll be, I hope that they get at least some time in the sun, because they really deserve it for having waited so long for a new book and new models and new rules, because man, they were like one of the first codexes released for 8th edition. And so they've really been languishing with those rules for quite some time. So they deserve everything they get.
So many rules. 6's hit, you wound. It's fine. Like your tanks, 2-up save. All good. Do all this other stuff, and they're still not great. So yeah.
They've definitely had a climb since that. Since all those updates, they've definitely had a win rate climb. The OG Guard players are really loving it right now, but it is just so much that they've had to like duct tape to the codex to hope it fixes it, and it's kind of worked. But it's going to be interesting to see how much of that keeps when the book does come out, like whether they lose Hammer of the Emperor, which is probably likely, and how much of that has been written into the codex and released early, or just kind of just taken out of thin air and will completely disappear when the codex does come out.
Yeah, chat letting us know the tactics game used up Yarrick. He's dry. The number one.
They sold all those during your first hour you can buy Yarrick for $5, and they oversold.
As someone who did not do that, do that.
Oh man, yeah, please, if you're gonna play that game for any amount of time.
Beautiful. Moving on, I have a little silly thing I found here. I found it quite cool. I had to trim it a little bit here, but it says assembled figures, as you can see from the photos, for £5. Products related to this item: Nintendo Switch and the Entertainer, which I don't know what that is.
That's like a toy shop in the UK.
Possibly.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it is. You said.
It is, yeah.
Cool.
It's a toy shop.
No, I know. See, I was a Woolworths man, and they went out of
Mm.
business because yeah. Anyway, I want to show you the next one here, which is the picture the lady posted of the miniatures here. It's actually Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine Rhino.
Love it.
It looks like a bunch of Playmobil figures in there, a couple Army men. It's good times. What
Hell
I'm
yeah.
hitting onto
Actually,
with
someone sent
up?
me a picture of an army today. Can I share an image to you that you can put on screen?
Yeah.
Like an
Oh, perfect.
So
Yeah,
someone sent me a
Danny,
picture today.
Yeah, Danny, let's fill some time. Let's fill some inner space. Hey, let's do the games played. Val loves games played sections and podcasts. Let's do some hobby progress.
Yeah, cool. We can talk about that.
Cool,
Man,
yeah,
I've been
yeah. What do
building
you-
a
what
lot
do
of Votan bikes. I built 18 Votan bikes this like in the last week and a half, and like I'm glad I never have to build one again.
Yeah, I am just going to literally save up every single dollar I can steal and find until December, and then buy all of the mutilators in the world, regardless of whether I can run
Dude.
them or not.
Hell yeah. I'm excited for that.
Because as someone as the OG mutilator boy, people said I was a fool for taking mutilators to LVO 2020, and let me tell you, they were right. But I did have a good time with them.
That's right. That's what
It was
counts, right?
super cool. And again, we're going off of general YouTuber levels of information, which means we saw a picture. Spikey did showed a picture of a sprue. We're just
we don't know
assuming
anything,
that
guys.
it's a mutilator.
We're
No.
idiots.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but if you've made it this far, you sort of know about it. Danny, while this is loading up here, we're going to see how do you explain to Warhammer to friends and family who might not necessarily be Warhammer people?
I don't. I generally don't do it. If somebody asks me about it, I'll explain it to them. But otherwise, that's a deep, secret, dark part of my life that I don't let out into the open.
I was expecting you to be like, hey, what's that over there? And you just don't talk to them and acknowledge them, and you just walk away. That's how you don't find it.
Yeah, that's how I roll. Actually, socially, I'm a very awkward person. I actually don't like people at all. So it comes pretty naturally to me.
People really do be the worst. Mikey, what about you, man? Like, this is a large part of your life, obviously. How do you explain Warhammer to friends and family?
To friends and family, I've been doing it for that long that they know about it, but I kind of just say it's like chess, but with guns and a tape measure. But that's like the only way I could explain it. And then they kind of like, what? And I'm like, exactly, yeah. It's cool.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So
okay.
It's an interesting one. It is very much related. It's almost a Space Marine Rhino. It's actually Stormcast Eternals, but Playmobil and Lego. I thought it was hilarious. It's quite funny that someone sent me that today.
Wow,
and it's just a beautiful pink Stormcast army, and I think they must have gone, I actually don't like painting faces, and then stuck Lego heads on top and Lego / Playmobil weapons.
Amazing.
Ironically, making the army far more expensive than the Games Workshop equivalent.
Those Dragon Riders are at least double the cost now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
At least.
For sure.
I'm gonna choke here. Last thing we're going to talk about here, slide 12. For those of you following at home and access to the slideshow, so Dickie, data slate this month. No delays foreseen. October is here. We were promised a quarterly balanced data slate, and damn it, Mikey, it wasn't available at 12:01 a.m. UK time on October 1st. Has the community got far too needy and whiny about this stuff? I don't know about you. I'm an older player who got used to like one codex every 6 months with no updates. And when it was out in the wild, I was like, you're like, that was broken. Like, oh yeah, that sucks. Go have fun.
Yeah.
Is the community too needy and whiny about this data slate stuff?
Yeah, 100%. But understandably, they're needy and what they just like moan about everything. That's just what Warhammer players do these days. And again, as we spoke about, dumb takes are louder than ever these days. But it's kind of like, it's understandable why people want it, because the game the problem is the game's in a really good place, and there's only a couple of problems with it. Like looking at Harlequins and Tyranids, for example, is like the two outliers. But it used to be much worse. So waiting a little bit longer wouldn't be so bad because those armies are annoying but beatable. Obviously, it's an uphill battle, but it's not as awful as it has been for a long time. We're not in the same game as we were like 7-8 months ago, with like Custodes and Harlequins being a really big problem. It's nowhere near that level because there's so many different armies that are doing really well right now. So it's understandable why there needs to be a change, but also it's not like we need it right now. It's not like there's a really big problem. I think people are just bored, which is also understandable because people expect that change. So they're like, well, I may as well wait for the balanced data slate now. And because people are like in that headspace where they're like, I'm not going to buy a new army. I'm not going to go to this tournament because I'm just waiting for the balanced data slate so I can be ready for it. They're just bored of waiting because they've put themselves in this perpetual state of, I'm not going to play until the balanced data slate is out. Also, the game's really good, so Games Workshop aren't releasing one. Or maybe I haven't made my fake one yet. So Games Workshop are waiting for that. Maybe that's
You're
the
the
problem.
catalyst. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, I love the fact that the game's in such a good place now that people are like, well, I'm just not going to play this until they fix it a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah, that's definitely the vibe I've gotten from a lot of people where everyone's like, the game's really balanced right now, so I'm going to wait until it's fixed.
Danny, what's your take on this? Because I know necessarily in some of our groups as well, we have a gentleman, Taylor, who screams loudly, and you don't think you could scream through text, but that gentleman does, about data slates coming and rules coming. What is your take on this? Are we expecting too much nowadays from GW?
I mean, we're expecting the standard that they have themselves set for themselves. I mean, like we're just expecting them to live up to their word. Like part of the point of them making a promise that they were going to be doing this as part of their surveys that they did, where people were asked how often people would like updates. People said quarterly, so that's kind of what they're doing. If they didn't want to be held to a quarterly, balance update, then they shouldn't have made that a thing. But yeah, totally. I don't know. Maybe they feel like they fixed Votan and they're like, well,
that'll do. See you in January or February or March, guys.
Good luck, guys. Have fun.
Their balance guy's only contracted for one item every month, and he's already did it with the Votan, so you can't really ask any more of that.
They can't make another apology this month.
Do you think we're going to a place where the balanced data slates and the grand tournament packets are going to be released kind of more closely together to set up an entire season rather than what we've been seeing? Danny, you're already viciously agreeing with me.
Please do that. Why would we not want that? Like, everybody would want that. That is perfect. Just do that, and then we can all play the season and see where it ends up.
Mikey, is that something you see happening there? Is the GT packet and the balance update are going to be more in line?
That's what they did in June, right? So that's the last one that we had came out at the same time as Nephilim and the points. All came out at the same time. I think the problem they've got is because the game's kind of good right now, they're delaying this balanced data slate. So we're going to have it for like a month, maybe 2, and then the new GT pack is going to come out. And we're all going to be like, wait, it's been 3 months from your original schedule, so should it be another balanced data slate that does nothing, that maybe fixes Votan once more? So the problem is they've gone, we're going to release one every 3 months, which coincides with the GT pack release, because we'll have release with the GT pack, one in the middle, and then one at the start of the next one. But they're delaying this one, which means the next one that comes out with the GT pack is probably going to get delayed as well. So it's kind of like they're ruining their own schedule, which is actually a really good way to do it, at the start, in the middle, at the start, in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
Very weird. Yeah. Very weird. They could have just released it, added like one little tiny thing, and then just got rolled with it and be like, that's your balanced data slate for 3 months because it's probably okay now. Space Marine players are bad, that's their problem. Admech players lose even more nerfs because that's their problem. And Harlequins maybe, I don't know, goes up a point. One model will go up a point and that'll be fine.
A couple things to throw out here before we wrap it up. One, you guys have talked heavily about how this is a pretty balanced edition outside of kind of some outliers, like Tyranids are pretty high up there. Space Marines are pretty low down there.
Wait.
But you're bad at the game. What do you see happening change-wise for this upcoming data slate? Can we get a preview of the community data slate 2.0?
I think he's kind of hard to nail right now. I think unless you just look at points, give Tyranids even less. Look at like Tyranid warriors because they're clearly a problem. Because if you can run 18 to 20 of the 18 to 21 of the same model, and that's pretty much everyone's list, that's probably the issue there. That's kind of like the big outlier. With Harlequins, I'm not sure where to look because they're just always so efficient no matter what you do to them. So again, it could be just a point rise on the problem units, maybe put troops up a little bit more, I don't know.
Yep.
And then Admech, everyone's getting better around them, so God knows they probably need Hammer of the Emperor and 2+8 vehicles next to fix them. And then Space Marines just needs to get better players. You know, that's the problem.
That's true. It's just better players.
I'm
the
medium one of them, so I can say that.
Before you buy a Space Marine Codex, you have to pass a written exam of competency at Warhammer.
To have
Armor
your
of competency, that's what they'll call it.
Yeah. Danny, what about you? What changes are you looking for in this upcoming slate?
I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with Admech. It sounds like they're a faction that's probably going to get touched. So, like, I think anything more than a light touch, though, like, can throw stuff really out of balance with how deadly this edition is. So I'm interested to see. I hope we get, as Chen Popo said, Armor of Contempt. I would like to see Contempt of Armor of Contempt as a special rule for Space Marines, where they get to ignore the first 2 points of armor of AP. Because their gear is better maintained.
Oh my gosh.
I'm all for it. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it, dude. The Iron Plans player over here is like,
yeah, boy. My Volkites don't get nerfed anymore, so that's fine.
I'm going to make your rule so complicated, you're going to need a law degree to understand it. That's what's going to make it. Mikey, thank you so much for either staying up insanely late or waking up insanely early. People already know, but remind them, where can they get more Mikey?
Well, thank you very much for having me on. Really appreciate it. And obviously, just go check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Hellstorm Wargaming, for all my content there. And if you like dumb pictures or dumb takes, go to my Twitter, twitter.com, Hellstorm_Mikey. They're like live hot takes, and then I'll make a video about it later.
Whereas if you go to my Twitter, which is HeyJohnQ, recently it's just AI generated pictures of Jeb Bush in various situations.
I've seen them all.
Dude, it's quality. You ever want to see Jeb Bush punch a shark on the ground? I got that there. Danny.
I have to say, John, that your Jeb Bush with big anime titties was probably my favorite one.
I'm in.
That was pretty good. Danny, what else you got?
No, John, I got nothing, man. It was really good to have you on, Mikey. I'm really glad that we got to have you on as a guest. You're fantastic.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. It's good to hash out our feud and our drama after you said I had a dumb take. So that's good. No, it's really fun, guys. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
No problem. Guys, what an amazing show. We're going to be back next Monday. Will we have an actual guest? Will it just be Val? Probably just Val. But we're going to go over something as well as the highest highs, the lowest lows of the community. Thank you, everyone. And as always, it's pretty grim after dark.